Alright, welcome back to part 2 of our first solids. Now, let's just do a quick review of what we did. We drew this solid part using some solid tools. And let's go to that part real quick. And remember, in order to use solid tools, each component that you create has to be a solid. It has to say solid up here. And if it's not, you use solid inspector. Excuse me, to inspect to see what the errors are. And just for a reminder, we used this solid right here, trimmed with this solid so that it created that hole. And I'm going to go ahead and hide it. I always use trim because I like to have the parts left over in case I need to use them somewhere else. You could use subtract, which just will delete that drill bit, but I wanted to keep it. So anyways, we have this part. And now let's talk about the Dave method. So I have shown this once before, and it was in the first lecture, and I kind of went over it briefly. So let's kind of go over it again. So what it is let's move over here. I'm going to switch our units to millimeters with extreme precision, just because I like to. And I'm going to make a rectangle about that big, and I'm going to push it up about that big. So, tape measure, let's just see how tall it is. It happens to be 6,666 millimeters. So pretty big. But we're going to even make it smaller. So let's actually talk about one other thing before we do the Dave method. Modeling in meters and then scaling to inches or scaling to millimeters. So we notice that from here to here is 6615.86. Now, if I wanted to, if I hold Control, and I click, and then I type in 6615.86, and I put the for millimeters, or quotes for inches, and hit enter, it's going to ask, do you want to resize the model? And you hit yes, and it will resize it to the current size. So I'm just going to do it as 6.615 millimeters. So I just type that in, bottom right hand corner. It's cut off a little bit due to the screen capture software. Hit enter. Ah, snap. Okay, I forgot to hit Control. So tape measure, hold Control, click again, 6.15 millimeters, hit enter. Do you want to resize the model? Yes. Control Shift E. Whoops. I have a feeling that's still not. Oh yeah, it's 6.15 millimeters. So we're good. Okay, so it scaled it down from meters to millimeters. Now, let's try, when working with millimeters, sometimes we get what we call the small face issue, and that's when you want to do something. Let's try to make a cut around this. I got an idea. I'm going to bring this down to right there, and then I'm going to bring this out to right there, and then I'm going to get my rectangle, start it right here. I want it along the red, and I'm going to make a rectangle. I don't know, somehow, let's go to X-ray. It goes in there just a little bit. So un-X-ray that. Okay. So I'm going to get a circle. I don't know if a circle is going to work. Let's try a rectangle here real quick. I've never done this, so let's see what happens. I'm going to click this, this, this. I'm going to use the Follow Me tool, and I'm going to... That's interesting. Okay. So it's not doing what I want it to do. Let's try circle. I don't care. Click that. Click Follow Me. I'm going to click on that. The path you have chosen, it says it can't be done because the cross section is too small. So we couldn't be able to get a Follow Me path to go around because it just says the cross sections overlap and it's too small. So that's what I wanted to happen. So to solve this issue of when you try to cut into this using another solid and it creates what we call the Tinyface issue, where it's too many lines are overlapping, what you do is you're going to select this, right click, make a component, and for intents purposes I'm just going to call it component number 1. Then I'm going to use the move tool. I'm going to control click, move, and then we're going to use the scale tool. Click this, uniform scale, times it by 1000. Control Shift E. So now that we have this component right here, I'm going to double click it to edit it. Then I'm going to draw a circle right here. I'm going to push it in a little bit. I'm going to draw a rectangle right here. I'm going to push it down some sort of amount. And let's just go to right there. Look at that. So, we're just gonna edit this a little bit, do some interesting stuff, la-di-da-di-da. We're just gonna make it bigger. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, and then over here somewhere I'm gonna make another circle, push this up, make it a component. Okay, I'm going to move it right there, and we're going to hit trim this from that. Notice this is not a solid anymore, so we need to fix those faces. No errors, everything's shiny. Okay, perfect. Now we can use solid tools. We're going to go trim this from that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and hide that. Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this, not completely delete it. Control Shift E to zoom extents. Whoops. And we're going to zoom in on this one right here. And look what was created. Everything I created in the giant component made it down here. So that is one way to handle things on a small level, is make a copy of the component, make it really large, do whatever you need to, and then delete that. So in that case, I'm going to delete this one because I don't need it. Component, unhide, I'm going to delete it. Component number 2, unhide. I got to figure out what that one is. Hide. Well, I don't know what component number 2 is, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so now back to where we were. So that is called the Dave method. It was actually coined after a gentleman on the Sketchup forums named Dave. He kind of came up with that idea, and just ever since then people have just been calling it the Dave method. So we've gone over the Dave method, and modeling in meters, then scaling to inches. So let's go ahead and do this last one with this part. So it needs to be scaled down to a given length that we absolutely know, and we know it's 145 millimeters from back to front. So let's go ahead and change that. And get our tape measure, click on here, hold control, click, go all the way down, unless, hold on, did I even make that 145? Whoops. We're inside model space now, that's where we need to be. So let's click on that tip and go all the way to the front. Red arrow. It's having a hard time wanting to get past that 134. Okay, so we need to find a non-circular edge. Okay, didn't even think about that. Let's go from here to here. 134, somewhere I chopped some stuff out by accident. That's alright. So somewhere along in the previous video, or after I made the video, I shrunk it down by 10 millimeters somewhere, and I don't know where I did, unless I hit 135 instead of 145, which I probably did. So we're going to make it 135. Okay, so while holding control, okay, we're going to click right here, and we're going to type in 135 mm and hit enter. It's going to say, would you like to resize the active group or component? Yes. Did it do it? I feel like it didn't. It did. Okay. So okay, still says it's a solid, so it actually resized it. Usually when you resize it, you'll see it shrink down, but I guess because we were in model space or in the 3D model component, it didn't do that. So let's go ahead and see with the tape measure tool what our radius here is. Should be close to 12. 11.1. Yeah, that one's 30. Okay, so that's good. And then this one is good. So that's what we want. And then this length from here, I think, should be 50. Where did I have it at? Along this line. 67 millimeters. Alright, let's redo this. I know why it's not working. Because I resized it a long time ago. Now let's see. Yeah, I resized it after the video. Anyway, you've already seen how to do it. In between these two videos, I resized it down to the correct appropriate dimensions. So, but like I showed on the other one, when you use the tape measure and then you just scale down. So that's really important to do, because then you can export it to STL. Okay, now let's talk about some basic rendering here. Let's add a little bit more information to this video for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this component. I want to make it Let's just go with plain old steel. So now if you look at it, it looks really weird, and if we zoom in, you can see all these little square patterns and how it makes up all these little lines. If we go to edit, we need to edit this right here. This tells us how often a pattern repeats. So 1 millimeter, 10 millimeters, 100 millimeters, and every meter. So usually I put it at 10 for this one, so it doesn't look too bad. And then we're going to hit enter, we're going to be okay, and then we're set. So then what I'm going to do is go up to here with Twilight. That is an extension you want to get, is Twilight Render, and most likely I'll be doing this every lecture to show how it works. Go to template materials, it's going to bring up the eyedropper. Click on this, it'll tell you anything underneath aluminum. We're going to use the template of, I'm going to use brushed metal, and we're going to go aluminum. Little preview right here. Bump, you want to use Sketchup. Color, you want to use Sketchup. Advanced, welded vertices. It makes things smoother. Well, let's see. Does it show that in the preview that it looks smoother? Yeah. So, okay. So anything with the aluminum color will have this template applied to it. So now let's go to our environment. Right now our environment is in the outside. What we're going to do is we're going to change it to spherical sky. Notice there's really nothing here, so we're going to do sun enabled, turn that off. It's pretty dark. So it needs a background image, and so you need to go to, let's go here. Oh yeah, Sabrina, I love that show. I'm not afraid to admit it. So Kirkithia, if you spell it right, not .com, Kirkithia. I keep wanting to go to .com. Kirkithia, just that. That's all I want. Okay. If you go to home, Kirkithia. That's really how it's pronounced. Go to downloads. Is this the one that we want? Is not downloads? Nope. We want to go to resources. Then, if you go to, let's see, did they move it? There should be one in here, not materials. Right here. Studio Light by Rayman. Save it and then unzip it in a folder, and then in here you go find said Studio Light. So I put that in OneDrive. Here, and then Studio Light by Rayman, Studio Light, and then you want to get Box Light. You open that up, and then it shows your light. And so then your environment is now set up, and you hit render. Oh, first position the way you want this. So I want to showcase that right there. Go to render, set your size. I'm going to do a medium, so it should take a couple of minutes to render, and then it'll just, well, render complete. Look at that. And it looks really dark, but you can do some post-processing afterwards, and we're just going to enhance the exposure, and you can see how there is, it looks pretty pretty interesting. It still doesn't look that great. So let's go ahead and try it from our, well, I like that angle a lot. So our environment, sky rotation, let's try at 30 degrees. So that's going to move the light. Hit OK. Render. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so there's that one. It's kind of blasé. So one thing that we could do, just because we can, pull that down, make this a base. Okay, we're going to apply a texture to this as well. Let's go to wood, cherry, boom. Now you can see how it's really blurry. It's really hard to see any type of wood grain in it or anything. So we're going to go back to here, type in 1 0 0 0. Wow. Okay, so how about 0.2? Okay, so 0.2. Oops. So let's move the base around so it's more of in the center here. Okay, so let's just make our camera look right there at that. Okay, let's go ahead and render. And current selection only? No. There we go. So it shows a little bit more brightness instead of a dark room. Now what we could do is we forgot to apply a texture map to the wood. So click that, click wood, anything wood cherry, this will be saved. So we're just going to do a satin finish. Color will be Sketchup, and it'll add a little bit more texture to it, as you can see. And then we're going to close that. We're going to hit render. Let's do a little bit bigger than 800 by 600. Let's lock those. Let's do 1280. Let's do this by 800 by, whoops. Sure, let's do that one, 1280 by 600. Do a medium. No. It's going to take a little bit longer. There you go. There's our render. And you can kind of see it's not the greatest quality. That's because it's on medium. If you were to let it render longer, you'd get better results using these over here, medium plus or high. Some of them can take hours. Anyways, it's kind of a rundown of how to do some rendering within SketchUp. So, anyways, that concludes this lesson in its entirety. So, as a recap, we learned about basic modeling, basic components and solids, the Dave method, modeling in meters and then scaling to inches, and in closing, when you do scale it down, you can always go to model info under window, set it to inches, set your precision, and you're good to go. But I'm going to keep mine at millimeters for right now. And then to see if it's a solid, just click on it, and up here it'll say solid, and it will always give you volume. So, and if you want to know how much volume that is in meters, just go to Model Info, select meters, hit close, unselect it, then reselect it, and it will tell you. So, there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck sketching, and until next time, and thanks for watching.